Welcome back to TheChowTimePod. It's your host, Red. We got a video today from MTR. You guys remember that police officer that just had trains ran on her? Apparently, she won $500,000 against the police force. Please like, subscribe down below. I really appreciate that. Let's get that chow. It's chow time.
And I absolutely could not believe at what is happening. The clown world, the clown show continues to go on just when you think that you're making some progression, that some people are hearing your points, hearing your arguments. You take 400 steps back towards damnation. What is it that I'm talking about? Remember this story? Police officer who slept with, had S with, got her insides, her viscous innards throttled by, her back severed and individually rearranged by 6 hulking, strapping black men back to back to back to back to back to men. Settles lawsuit against those same members of the police force from what she was fired from. Megan Hall is getting a big payday. That's her name. I don't know that I've ever seen a face that just screams as much as this one that I love the BBCs. Nevertheless, let's go down. Megan Hall has settled her lawsuit against the city of La Vergne and 3 of her former superiors in the department. The former officer was fired from the department in Tennessee back in January 2023, less than 2 years after joining. Shortly after she was let go, she filed a lawsuit against the city and her former police chief, Chip Davis, and the former sergeants, McGowan and Lewis Powell. Now, I know you guys are saying, MTR, what did she could possibly have sued the police department for? Wait till we go over this damn video.
A $500,000 settlement in a high-profile sex scandal lawsuit.
$500,000.
Thank you for joining us here at 6. I'm Carrie Sharp. The city of Laverne agrees to pay former police officer Megan Hall $500,000 for alleged civil rights violations. It's a case News Channel 5 has followed closely for more than a year. And tonight, in an exclusive, we hear why Hall and her attorney agreed to close this case.
The disturbing details came from not one, but 2 investigations last year, finding evidence of sexual activity between Megan Hall and other officers within the Laverne Police Department. And it led to a federal civil rights lawsuit, one which the city settled this week. Are you satisfied with the settlement?
Absolutely. This was her decision. You know, she wanted to put this in the past and move forward with her life.
Wednesday night.
Well, yeah, $500,000 is going to do that quite easily. She just got fired. She probably wasn't good at her job anyways. Jeez.
The Laverne Board of Aldermen voted to pay Hall $500,000 to close the case. Alderman Dennis Waldron was the only dissenting vote.
And also it done is sending a message out to everybody in the world, said, come to Laverne. Sue Laverne because they're going to sue.
Well, I've got great advice for him. Stop breaking the law and you won't get sued.
In an exclusive interview last year when the story broke, Hall, the lone female officer on second shift and a rookie, said she was manipulated by her male superiors, including the police chief, to the point where she participated in sexual activity. In the culture of intimidation, she said that she felt she had no choice.
I remember while interviewing for the position at Laverne Police Department, they described the environment as a family. However, while I was aspiring to protect my community, the Laverne Police Department was not protecting me.
By now, most of the country knows what happened. Hall, 4 other
somehow turned this into a Me Too, guys. Pretty much Me Too'd her way from getting fired to getting $500,000, and all of these men are all fired.
Officers and the police chief were fired last month. This after 2 separate investigations found that Hall engaged in sexual activity and or shared intimate photos and videos with several male officers. The chief and 2 sergeants were among those implicated. Now Hall and her attorney, Wesley Clark, are suing those 3 supervisors and the city in federal court for civil rights violations.
Megan wasn't looked at like a rookie cop to be trained and promoted. She was looked at as a piece of meat.
Oh my God, this scummy ass lawyer.
The narratives that get created when there's no one stepping up to the plate to criticize, to critique, to cast doubt on any of the assertions, and to know that we are set up in a system in a society today that you can engage with a thought rocket, and she's a known thought rocket to the extent of messing with multiple BBCs throughout an organization. They all know about it. They're all texting back and forth because she's the town petri dish. And after getting caught, after getting outed, you go get a lawyer to prosecute those that you made an active decision to participate in, and the city folds and buckles because of the current state of the dynamic between men and women today. This is why I tell you guys so often, don't even do it. Messing with a chick at the workplace, do not shit where you eat. Never do it. Because at the end of the day, they created a culture for me to get my back blown out. I just didn't know what to do. I just didn't. I called him up. I sent him text messages. I sent him nudes. He comes over. I relieve his soul through his body through orgasm. I get fired. It's his fault. This should absolutely terrify every single man that is looking at this content right here. This is reality. And I know a lot of the young men who haven't maybe stepped onto a college campus, if you're like real young, if you haven't stepped onto a college campus, some of the little bit older men who haven't stepped into the workplace, this is serious. You have to keep your wits about you. You cannot let thinking with the wrong head impact you into your decision-making processes going into the future, because at the end of the day, they can cry wolf. At the end of the day, they'll just place it up on you. And they'll receive a $500,000 settlement for their bullshit. Men, MT Army, this is a wake-up call, officially, because of what you thought and what you were doing, while mildly unethical. And honestly, I don't know if it is unethical to mess with a peer, to fraternize with a peer. I know that for the corporate organizations I worked for previously, there was a thing about managers and people who work for you couldn't fraternize there, but like if you were in different departments and someone was a manager over here and then someone else was an individual contributor in a completely different department, it was fine. But if you're in the same department, then you couldn't fraternize. But in this case, you could just think you're just messing with a thought rocket, a strumpet, but then you have this bastard that gets up on TV and paints this picture of you all being monsters. Meanwhile, she's a nasty woman.
To be sexualized and exploited.
Since the story broke, Hall, the lone female officer fired and only woman on the second shift, became a target nationwide for sexual jokes and taunting.
I received harassing and threatening messages on my phone daily.
That has nothing to do with the men that you said yes to. Holy moly.
Felt like I had been terrorized.
And yes, now she is suing. No criminal charges have been filed in the case. Hall knows there are those who will say she was a consenting adult who willingly participated in sexual antics in violation of police department policy, and that now she wants to blame others, including one sergeant who targeted her early on.
I know what most people are saying. You know, you could have said no. I get it. But my response to them is that I did say no, and he wouldn't take it for an answer.
Liars.
Sure.
Fucking
Eventually, I gave
lies.
in.
Why do they lie? Why do they lie? How could they lie? They're just fucking liars. They all do it. All women. Period. I'm gonna fucking canvas the whole broad of women with this. Doesn't matter what it is. They will lie. If it protects them from some kind of danger, some kind of upset, you being mad at them, they will hide it and they will lie about the smallest of things. They will always do it. Almost always. And if they didn't do it that one time, they've done it other times.
From pressure.
God.
So it's not as easy to say she could have just said no.
Usually in these cases, I would say, we don't believe you. You need more people. But apparently she had the narrative. She had the lawyers. She had the societal or the cultural pressure on men of guilty until proven innocent. You had a city that is weak and was willing to buckle. And that's all that it took.
Yep.
She took it to trial. And now she's $500,000 richer.
No.
She did say no on several occasions. Miss Hall tried to get out of this relationship and
kept coming
she was
back
not
for more.
allowed to.
What allegations did she make in her lawsuit? Well, in her suit, she claimed that her supervisors and the chief of police groomed her for exploitation.
You're a grown adult. You still can get groomed? Really?
Describing herself as a vulnerable and optimistic 24-year-old woman, the suit went on to allege they colluded in using their authority to systematically disarm her resistance and entrap her in degrading in the relationship, even sharing tips on the best ways to manipulate and exploit her. After a year from her firing, the 28-year-old will be paid a $500,000 settlement,
Disgusting.
which includes court costs, attorney fees, and expenses paid out by the city's insurance. The board voted 3-1 in favor of it settling. Just as the board member mentioned earlier, what message does this send to anyone else that signs up for the police force? But then also, what societal message does this send that they're just willing to settle? There's no talk here about the evidence that she presented, the recordings, the text message, none of that. And the fact of the matter is that this does no justice to actual cases of abuse, grooming, predatory behavior. It does no justice to it. I am fully under the idea that people, men or women, that are perpetrators of these type of allegations should receive a fair day in court. That way we can see all of the evidence and ensure that it's not a Johnny Depp versus an Amber Heard situation. But because the city folded, this is what we're left with. It is absolutely scary how much of a litigious society that we live in here in America. I know the majority of the people that watch me are from America, so if you don't live here, maybe you don't know what it is that I'm talking about. But I need all of the young men that watch this channel to understand what you are up against. I try my damnedest to ensure that anyone who watches me, if you're part of the MT Army, you're thinking holistically about the choices that you are making throughout your life. Because now, think about the lives of these police officers that were set up nicely within this town, that had decent, well-paying jobs. They have families, they have friends, they had a salary, they had a pension, and a lot of that now is at risk and or compromised because of the way that this is now flipped around. We are currently living in an era where men today are facing severe consequences to an uncriticized feminist movement. And no matter what it is that I am due to create content to talk shit on it, there are still men actively making decisions today that are putting themselves at risk. Stop putting yourselves at risk, guys, because this is what you're up against.
Shout outs to MTR. Our government is weak. Or they're just pushing this narrative that women are weak and women are always the victim. And we're just paying them out and destroying men. Please subscribe down below. I really appreciate it. I'll catch you guys next time. Ciao.